To the September meeting of the Albany Public Library Board of Trustees. First on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Can I have a motion to do that?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Allison. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Jenna. Any additions or discussion on it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment? I don't see any members of the public. So we'll move on. Minutes from last month. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Make a motion.
Ms. Allison, can I have a second? Sarah, thank you. Any comments, questions, additions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Treasurer's report and check register. Does anyone have any questions on either one of these?
Sure.
Can you just remind me that the rental in the rental income we didn't budget for?
Okay.
Because we have the ACAP and,
We didn't budget for that, and we didn't do a revised budget?
that,
Is that correct?
I'll have to double check that. I didn't We should have budgeted for it, but I don't have the back out details of that. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I had a question on the check register.
Okay.
The rent for North Albany,
Yeah.
the 3,200, is that to make up for August?
That was July and August payments of 1,600 each.
1,600.
Okay, that was my question.
And I had the question about that too, because it says rent, and I think we're specifically not calling it rent. So I think we should call it something
Okay, we
else.
can call it.
And did we pay the other, pay July and August, but then what about March through?
We had paid earlier in the year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was July and August that you were at September and October now. Are those in there too?
No. We'll do September at the end of the month, and then October at the end of the following month. Can someone let Andy in?
Oh. And then on page 6, community activities budget is quite a bit over budget.
So what budget?
Page 6, community activities expenditures is 987% over budget.
That looks like an error in percentage, that's expended.
Well, that's,
Wait,
yeah.
hold on, that one,
You know what it was? It got corrected on the first sheet, but you
Not
never
on the
corrected it
second.
on the second sheet.
I'll speak to Chuck about that.
So where is it on the first?
So on the first sheet, it was originally reflected in materials and services. So if you look at the materials and services, the third down in expenditures. So the first sheet that's in front of you, page 5,
Yep.
is basically is a synopsis of different categories combined together.
Yep.
So originally that had an error, we caught it, and we made sure it was corrected. But
Okay.
it seems like now we know, when broken down, where that error came from. And that needs to be corrected.
Okay.
Are some of the other items that are more than 100% over budget caused by the similar error, or?
No, the software is running over budget.
Software is running over budget because we had to purchase an additional malware software.
Right, and
Detention.
periodicals are definitely over.
Well, that's what periodicals are. We are 90% spent out on maintenance and repairs before the snow season.
Yes, we had put, a lower number in that budget line, and yes, he's running at 90% right now, yeah, he is.
But we're watching that line closely. It's also, we have saved in staffing. So some of the spending that we've been doing, there'll be a budget mod in November, which will change this and redisperse this, but as we found out last year for facilities projects, if we're taking savings from one budget line, using it in another budget line, we can't wait until November or else we will not spend that money. So we've been kind of tactically looking at our lines. And we also had a lot more snow removal at the end of of the winter than we were expecting, so that's also why it's a little high. But if you look, our biggest budget line is payroll and related costs, and we're still trending below that.
Yep.
So there's some additional projects that we've added on to kind of, and we're also taking the money that we're making from rent and really using that for building projects as well.
Back to the community activities line, so percentage was wrong, but is the total wrong?
No, yes it is. Give me a second, I'm working the math out for that.
That's a scary.
Yeah,
It was
It
just
appears
the
that that's-
year-to-date number's way too high.
That year-to-date number should be 6148.
Okay.
If I'm doing, please let me check my math on that though.
Prior month with, no, I don't,
Cause it
Which
was,
we're
if it
putting
is
in
corrected
line.
on the first sheet.
just to remind the board, we do the, 5-year forecast. When we do the 5-year forecast, we're in the middle of it. We look at all budget lines, and we will do budget modifications to, raise those. For instance, like maintenance and repairs, that will go up, you know, we have, significant savings in salaries, and we also have savings in the New Year's Eve retirement system. So we have money to fund those other costs where we are over the budget line.
So that year-to-date number for community activities should be that $6,148. And that would, fall in line with administrative and miscellaneous on the first page. Not under materials and services, but under administration and miscellaneous. So that would have that number, it was corrected on the front, the first page, but not on the second page.
And so will we
The
get,
percentage is 87, or 88% approximately.
can we get a corrected version that goes in the packet for the,
Yes, I'll have Chuck,
Website. Thank you.
Chuck's report, I'll have.
okay, I'll take a motion for the check register.
Make a motion.
Thanks, Alyssa. Second? Second. Awesome, thank you. Any other questions about that? Okay, all in favor? All right. Committee and liaison reports. So first up is Facilities Committee, and Alyssa, you're the new chair.
There was no meeting.
There was-
I'm the new chair.
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Hey, so the news is I'm the new chair. And we changed a meeting, I believe we have on the agenda, something about our vehicle. So we would have discussed that at the facilities meeting, but we're bringing it to the whole board.
So there wasn't a facilities meeting?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that.
All right, PEG liaison.
Sure, so we met this month, at the beginning of the month. We we are looking into new equipment. Unfortunately, when we had our presentation on the new equipment, not everybody was there, so they're trying to bring everybody up to date. And this is the equipment, essentially a server that will allow them to take the video that they produce through the studio and upload it to broadcast it. So it's the broadcast server. The one we have is completely out of date. It's no longer being supported for any updates or upgrades or anything of that nature. They'll support it should it break down, but that's about it. And right now, the server that we have will only allow for like 2 video formats, which is really restrictive because people aren't using those 2 formats much anymore. So it's about a $58,000 outlay though for the new equipment. But this will allow us to not only broadcast multiple formats, it's allows for cloud-based, so it's not, the person doesn't have to be in the studio to upload everything, they can do it via computer at home, so it will allow for more flexibility. It'll allow for broadcasting via our website, so we can do the live stream on the website and stuff like that. So we have the budget for it. So at the next meeting, we're hoping to have quorum to be able to vote officially to purchase that. The other big thing is October 20th is Community Media Day across it's National Community Media Day. And that date sounds familiar. It is also the date of our foundation gala. So they will be hosting, we've been talking about doing an open house with the studio, with the new coordinator to get people in the community kind of excited about that. So on the 20th from 11 to 3, they will be doing a open house as well. So they'll be doing studio tours, question and answers with the board, with the studio coordinator, and also there will be a meet and greet with some of the producers of the shows that are currently running, and kind of a how to get started if you wanted to produce your own show. And then there's going to be a forum discussion or moderated discussion from 1:30 to 3, with different people talking about the future of public access channel and following. So that should be wrapping up around 3 o'clock. I'm getting them started and then I'll be running over to how to set up for the gala. But that's where we are right now. The website, I believe, is finally back up. We were finally able to get that going again. We're still having issues getting access to the Facebook account for the, what happened was during the interim and the upheaval of the board, passwords were lost, and now we have to fight to get access back into that with the new board, because nobody who, the person who signed up is no longer with us and has no authority anymore. That's where it's going.
And to clarify, when you say we in this context, you're talking about the PEG board,
The board.
not the library.
Correct.
So okay.
It's a very confusing.
Any other questions or comments about that? Okay, thank you, Molly. Policies and procedures grid.
No updates, we haven't had a policy meeting.
Okay. Director's report.
So the library in August, the library and City Hall hosted an ice cream with the mayor event with select summer reading program participants. The Washington Avenue branch, we hosted our first drag queen story hour. The Arbor Hill West Hill branch staff were busy this month with teen behavior and improving it. The Bach branch's Let's Talk About It program discussed the history of Washington Park, UAlbany's original campus, and the building of the Uptown campus and pools in Albany. They covered a lot in one session. Pine Hills branch staff were happy to report groups of the RISE Refugee and Immigrant Support Services of Amos used their summer reading prizes, which you could win. You could win coupons to Sky Zone. They used that so they could take a group trip to Sky Zone. So that was really nice. The Delaware branch reported a continued increase in job skill and resume writing assistance. District Attorney David Sawyers presented a well-attended informational session on marijuana laws at our Howell branch, and the staff of the North Albany branch are excited to report a successful youth and adult summer reading program. Operations-wise, human resources helped transition performance assessments to an online process. We're still working that out. PR handled multiple media inquiries and social media interactions regarding the Drag Queen Story Hour, and facilities reported several AC units went down. Pine Hills air conditioning seems resolved, but we're still struggling with how. This week we received the replacement part. When they went to replace it, they found out that the part had been broken in transit, so we're hoping to get a new part. This is one of those situations where we have to buy the replacement parts from the companies that made the engines. So we're still struggling with that. I've spoken with the staff down there. We have multiple portable AC units, and when it got really hot, they said it was still manageable. Looking forward, the Arbor Hill West Hill branch will have celebrated library card sign-up month, which is this month, with a scavenger hunt. The Washington Avenue branch will be hosting an author talk and book signing from John Miller, the author of Historic Theaters of New York's Capital District. That's on 9/16. He was interviewed on our last podcast. The Pine Hills branch will have a pop-up library at the Madison Avenue Street Fair. That's 9/23. The Delaware branch will be creating fall-inspired wreaths. That's 9/29. The Bach branch will have a library card sign-up reception, 9/22. And the Washington Avenue branch with the Capital District ACLU will be putting on a banned books readout. We do this every year. We love it. I'll be reading Yertle the Turtle this year, one of my favorites. And that's our report. Open the floor to questions.
Can you talk more about Arbor Hill?
So, you were at the last board meeting. That's
Yeah.
kind of become regular behavior there. Today, Sarah and I met. We're actually adding staff there. We had one successful meeting with the neighborhood association. We had a very successful meeting with the school superintendent. Bob and I have to discuss what that relationship's going to look like. So we've put everything in place to help with the situation. It's just the teen behavior in Albany is a little concerning this early in the school year. But we saw behavior that night, and we've seen subsequent behavior. I've been to the branch a handful of times, and every time I'm there, except for this past Thursday when the neighborhood association met, it's been some serious issues. Same kids have been kicked out, kids who are on the police radar. That branch has a lot of rocks in its landscaping, so we've had some significant damage to the building. We call the police show up, but it takes them some time. So it's gonna need to be a community thing, it's gonna need to be a partner thing. Our partners are lined up and the community is lined up to help, but there's no quick fix to it. The staff handle it very, very well. They were actually, we're celebrating a reprieve over the summer when school ended. I think late June into July was fairly quiet. However, when we hit August, that's when we saw an increase in vandalism and bad behavior inside the library.
What kind of vandalism are we talking about, and have staff reported feeling unsafe?
So we've met with the staff several times about whether or not they feel safe or not. We've actually offered some transfers for some staff. However, they say they don't feel unsafe. They feel somewhat supported. Annie Johnson, who's our community support, our
Community services and support specialist.
she's been over there a bunch of times. She's working with the staff on approaches. What they've also done is we're not doing programming in the programming room. We're basically making that a teen space. That's something we did at Delaware when we had a significant amount of issues. We are concerned with staff burnout, but for the most part, they've expressed that they want to be there. Most of the vandalism is kind of rock throwing, onto the side of the building, creating dents. There was some writing on the side of the building, but for the most part, it's more like, it's less artistic vandalism and more just kids who are really bored and have found rocks that they can throw at a building.
I think we understand that the building's metal.
Makes a loud noise when it.
Sounds cool.
So, and the police have been engaged, but they have their hands full.
So I think I was there along with Brenda and staff from the library, and the community members are quite concerned about it and implored each other to actually be a neighborhood presence at the library, just a kind of neighborly watch on, you know, being there, which I think is a great idea. And some people made a commitment to come in, you know, between the 3 and 6 o'clock hour, just to like be there. I have made a commitment to try to do that once a week. If I invite all of you to do the same, just to be witness to it, and also, you know, hopefully to be an adult. That doesn't seem to influence them, these kids, much. But there were several things that came out of it. One is, yeah, it's an uptick, but it is also developmental. They're not high school kids. If they are high school kids, they're younger high school kids, but it's middle school and high school. They are known to the school, and the principal was at this meeting and invited the library staff to actually come to the middle school and walk through the cafeteria. So from a board perspective, I would like to see that pursued and strengthened, because I think she made it very clear that she was going to be the intermediary with the kids when you're on when you're on her turf. So I thought that was very good. We have to get smarter about how to engage them. These kids have nowhere. They have no place. There's no place that they can go. Even the community center, the community center is reserved for the little kids until 6:15 or something, until they can go.
Yeah, and Lincoln Park
And-
closes out for them from 4 to 5. Yeah,
Well, so the whole thing is kind of a disaster. And then the other thing is the police were there, a representative from the police department, and, you know, they don't want to arrest children, and they're completely flummoxed on how you deal with these completely disrespectful, kind of out of control kids. So I think from a board perspective, I want to reiterate that the staff is highly respected by the adults in that community.
And many of the kids.
So, but rightfully so, what was brought out was that we do not have enough people of color employed. And when we did have we had a staff member there for many years who was kind of mother, and you didn't mess with her, and she kicked people out, and some people were afraid of her, but she was able to kind of maintain this. So I think we've got, so there were recommendations of inviting the community into a staffing orientation, an employment orientation for library jobs, which I would like to see us pursue. So it does matter what people look like when we staff libraries in particularly fluid neighborhoods. And it does matter who kids see telling them to pull it together, you know? And so I think these are our issues. We can go back to our strategic plan and look at, our interest in diversifying our staff and outreach. I want us to be, wouldn't it be great if we could programmatically address this issue internally so that we can actually provide the best services? These are kids, they're out of control, they have nothing to do, they have crappy home lives to go back to. Well, where else should they go to but the library? Of course they should come to the library. If they're coming to the library, how do we engage them? How do we be adult enough and strong enough to do that? And I'm not saying that the staff is not adult enough. It's a difficult situation, but it would be great if we could not look so beholden to these kids who've got, you know, real issues they're working on.
So, you actually reminded me, Alyssa, because I know we'd been talking a lot about vandalism on the outside, but when you said they don't have anywhere to go, I do remember at the last meeting running in and out, and I feel like they got kicked out at some point. Have they been trying to come in the library, and have they been thrown out due to noise or what? Okay, what's the situation there? Have they been trying to come in the library? Or?
So many of the kids get told that, okay, you know, you've been here long enough, you're starting to act up.
Okay.
How about you go for the day? There are multiple kids who have been banned for significant portions of time, like 3 months, but they ignore the banning. They still come in the
For
building.
doing what?
Fighting. We've had a lot of fights.
In the library.
We recently had a young man who was drunk and admitted that he was drunk to one of the police officers.
Teenager?
18.
Yeah. No, 17. Okay. So those mostly the kids who got banned are the kids who fight, and they will just, you know, they won't come around for a week or two, and then they'll show up.
And so that's what happens. If you don't have, and we've had a staffing issue there, right? We've been looking to replace the community engagement officer there, so there's only a part-time person there, there's not the full-time person. And if you don't have somebody at the door monitoring who comes in, then that's when that begins to get out of control, because if the staff is doing their library work or helping customers or doing whatever they're doing, they can't always watch who's walking in the door. So, was it the police officer was saying he followed up on one of these young women, went to the house,
Yes.
the grandmother was the guardian, and the grandmother basically said to the police officer, she's completely out of control, I can't do anything, can you help me? That child was quite disrespectful to her grandmother, so you can see this is the neighbors were talking about, can't we get the parents involved, can't we contact the parents? It's clear that the library, we don't have the jurisdiction or the capability of going into people's homes, you know, tracking children down and, you know, dealing with their families. And when the cops do it, it's not often fruitful. So,
Sometimes it's unnecessarily punitive to someone who's a middle schooler, you know. I mean, I don't know that unnecessarily is the right word, but it's punitive.
well, but it's an endemic, it's a much more complex issue than, but what happens on the outside is that when there's 20 or 30 of them roving in a pack and committed to, you know, really acting up, and it is developmental, let's remember, they're not all bad kids. This is what middle schoolers do. They're horrendous, you know, they're really hard to manage, especially in a group. And it is their job to try to push every possible boundary. Oh, I don't know, Matthew's the expert on this age here. So the question is that every library in America has gotta have, you know, been dealing with difficult middle schoolers. So this is not new to us.
It's not new to us. I mean, to remind you, we've had this issue at Delaware, we've had this issue multiple times at Howe, so we're employing some of we've had this issue at Washington Avenue, we're employing some of the things that have helped us there, but this is
Worse.
worse,
Okay.
and it's, whereas with Delaware and Washington Avenue, it wasn't necessarily neighborhood-wide, this is behavior that the neighborhood has said they're seeing.
All over.
Yeah. And the school is, and Officer Pierce is as well. But the library is a space that they can go to, and, you know, when I went there and spoke with Ray, who's one of our community clerks there, and he said, yeah, we know it's when the recreation center isn't open, and it's after they get kicked out of the recreation He's like, that's my experience when they're coming.
Could we create partnerships with the recreation center to try to have programming that's more appropriate to get energy
We
out?
could, I mean, we've spoken with them, but I think they're,
They're exasperated.
yes.
Well, and the neighborhood association doesn't, that relationship with the community center seems a little tenuous, you know, so I think we've got to diversify the staff there. People doing programs there have to look like the kids there. I'm sorry, just. And I think we have to have a big programmatic intervention, and that might mean a partnership with a community organization. It would be great if it could be something like Youth FX, or I don't know, something, some kind of creative gang gang in terms of lots of people involved. Gaggle, not gang.
Scott, would you be able to talk for a minute? You said you have partners, multiple partners lined up, ready to help us. Could you just talk about a little bit about who they are and what they might be able to do? Yeah, as best you can.
Yeah, I mean, we've described some of the neighborhood association, which is we typically work with the neighborhood associations of this issue, and they're looking to get people from the community to volunteer.
Right.
We met with the school, Annie and I met with the school superintendent and her team a couple days before that meeting. They're definitely interested. They recognize that the middle school has kind of changed the dynamics of behavior in that corridor. We have spoken with recreation. The other rec center is run by Trinity. That's kind of up in the air. And then there are relationships that the staff are creating on the ground, like with our neighbors, the kids zone, things like that. There are multiple nonprofit agencies and organizations in the area that we can partner with, but we just have to create something programmatic.
See, the biggest thing that we're seeing is there's the pent up energy.
Sure.
And we're not a gym, we're not
No.
a physical facility of that nature. So we're trying to work with our partners who do have those resources, but they're limited as well. I mean, they're facing what every other nonprofit's facing with budget crunches and such. And with the community center, they see the need, but they have, it's not just the teens they serve the younger kids too. And so that's why, and they see, a definite need to keep the two separate, to not allow for the older kids to be there when the younger kids are there, not to be a bad influence on
Sure.
them. So that's why, after school, it's the little kids' time, and then in the evening, it's the older kids' time. And unfortunately, when the older kids need to get the release out, is that after school period, and so
Right.
there's really unless they can somehow split that building down the center, constructively, to allow for both groups to be there at the same time, that's really the only option.
Oh, there's the crack. There's a crack in the floor.
But they would need additional funding, they would probably need additional people, so there would be a dedicated staff for the younger kids and a dedicated staff for the older kids. So it's one of these situations where I do see, the library tends to be seen as the catch-all.
Yep.
And this is a situation where we can't, because that's something that we just physically can't provide.
The sheer numbers of the kids, 30 to sometimes 40 kids coming through the door within a very short window of time. And we have 4 staff members. So we are moving some staff from Washington Avenue over there just to kind of support the staff that are there, but it is a wave of kids.
Do we have that position filled yet?
We did interviews yesterday.
So you're still another at least week or 2 weeks away
Possibly.
from getting somebody in place.
So we have gotten a lot of applications to this position, but this is a employee market. So, like all of our positions, they're harder to fill than they were in the past.
Because we don't want just a warm body specifically in this position. We need to have somebody who has the skills that can handle it, cause you don't want somebody who's just gonna fly off the handle at the first interaction.
That would be bad.
Correct.
I mean, I know, I don't claim to be an expert on any of our programming, but I know that the Wii video game is a more active kind of thing.
So we,
And I'm sure that there are several people around that know way more about how to deal with this, because we've had it at several other places, but it's worse here.
so we do that programming, so, you know, there's one thing, and we've seen this, we saw this at Howe a few times, where it's, you've got your group of library kids who come in, they do programming,
Right.
they're kind of the normal crew of kids who come in, and then you have, you know, and this was discussed at the neighborhood association, you have
Wild bunch.
one or two kids who come in, and some of those kids follow the lead, some of those kids back away, some of those kids get picked on. So yes, we've put all of those things in place that have been successful other places, and we've reached that.
Still struggling.
Yes,
So we need some more help.
yes.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you've lined up some help. You're having good conversations with other groups, and let's keep this on the agenda and just see how it's going and see if other resources are needed or support from the board. Sound?
Just one last thing. I mean, the city has wholly turned its back on that area forever. And there's no concerted effort from City Hall to address any of those problems other than through the police department. So, I mean, it's no wonder why that neighborhood has become what we left it to become, right? It just seems to me that in these situations, we never try and partner with the kids themselves. And I think that that's an overlooked avenue here, to directly engage those kids.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely.
So with our new community services and support specialist, Annie, we had a meeting with Katie Clark from the Albany Police Department, who runs the anti-violence, multidisciplinary team coordination. And one of the things she mentioned and that they want us on the table of is or bring us to the table to, is the Teen Advisory Council that they have. So speaking on that, they said, you know, that's a bunch of kids that are looking at the issues of the city, and she goes, it's amazing that she goes, they won't participate, they won't come to your library, they won't participate in the community center activities, but they're willing to give their opinions on what needs to be done. So when that meeting, I think, is at the end of September, and they've asked us to not join that committee. So Annie will be representing us.
Yeah, I mean, I just think anything we can do, that neighborhood is in such dire need of services and attention and care. Whatever role the library can play, and frankly, we may be the organization that's best suited to play a role in that neighborhood. You know, a thing that I've been kicking around in my day job is for school district public libraries to create an ex officio seat specifically for a high school kid that's elected by, you know, their peers. You know, that's obviously like kind of a bit of an out there thing, but just thinking about different ways that we can engage those kids in particular.
Jonathan Jones, the director of Parks and Rec, lives in Arbor Hill, and they just got a new huge playground in Tenbrook, so I do think that there is new attention being paid to Arbor Hill, and I think that could be a really good partnership, because he's somebody who knows those kids and knows their
Well, and
We're-
that's the neighborhood association too, they've been.
Yeah.
We have a regular partnership with Albany Rec, and
Yeah.
him and I have discussed Arbor Hill and some of the issues. I mean, you do have to remember that the school district bought that building, So it's a recreation department one, kind of
Yeah.
like the basketball courts specifically are only available certain times of the year.
That sucks.
Which is our community engagement clerk who left us due to health reasons. That was his biggest complaint because he also worked at that community center, and he said he definitely saw that have a negative effect on teen behavior.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, your point is
Well,
well taken.
I think we have seen an uptick, not just because it's happening, but because we haven't had a full-time community engagement clerk, because we had a staffing change a little while ago where a significant person from the staff was no longer there. I do think that has had a significant impact on that. So on those two fronts, I think we just need to be very, and especially in these next couple of weeks where these kids are going to, test you even more to see whether they've got an in for the rest of the year. So I think whatever rearranging of staff you can do just to put a lot of attention on it right now and see if we can tamp it down until we come up with some other possible scenarios.
So yeah, just, I think, let's keep it on the agenda. I'll keep talking about it and pull us in where needed. Unless a suggestion of actually doing some of the office hours or the.
Yeah, I would just come and, I was suggesting maybe we could volunteer to do stuff and, let's just not get involved in it, just show up.
Just
Just
see
be
what's
a
going on.
witness and stand there in front of them if you need to, I don't know, something,
I feel like I have enough teens in my life. I have enough teens in my life.
Oh my.
No, I'm
Well,
just.
that's what's been asked of the
Yeah.
by the neighborhood association, and they didn't have a rousing response to that request. Only one person offered to do that, and I think what they're trying to do is really appeal to parents, and they're having a huge struggle with that.
Yeah.
Because there's only a certain number of people who are engaged.
And available
And
at that time.
available.
From 3 to 6.
That
yeah,
was, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move to new business. The 2019 schedule of service.
So I'm passing around an update. I'm sorry, the one that was in the packet, we looked at the wrong calendar. So, we were basing it on last year's vacation, and it is, different this year. Other than that, the branch closures, in observance of holidays are no different because that's now stipulated in the union contract. And the days that we are open, and also when branches close early. We close early on Thanksgiving Eve,
Thank you.
and we close early on New Year's Eve. Staff Development Day, it'll be on the 18th, and that avoids the school holiday.
We assume we need to vote on this.
I have a question. Will we ever think about keeping one branch open on Sundays in the summertime?
I would love to. Yeah.
And
If you had your druthers, which one?
Bach, because it is the easiest one to staff, because not only do we have to take into consideration the cost of staffing on a Sunday and getting the building open, it is very difficult to get people to work on a Sunday. So, and we often have some call-ins for Sundays. A branch like Bach can operate with 2 people, so if we schedule 4 people and 2 people call in sick, we can still operate the branch.
Thank you.
sounds like something we can talk about for budget development in the next few months. Motion to approve updated schedule of service.
Make a motion?
Allison and then Andy. Okay, any other comments, questions, discussion? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Closing the Howe branch at 3.
So this is for the gala. We do this at every branch that we have the gala at. A branch like Howe will need a significant amount of rearrangement before the gala to open up the space. So these few hours kind of give our facilities staff time to really move the large shelves so that we can create a little bit of a space for people attending the gala.
Motion? Jenna, thank you. Okay, Andy. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And the tickets for the Literary Legends Gala are on sale now, and so I encourage all board members to attend. It's the biggest fundraiser for the APL Foundation, which now provides the grants to do innovative programming here at the library.
And given that the foundation supports this library that we care very much about, I urge all of us, it would be great to have 100% participation by all board members for this event. It's a great way to just show our friends and neighbors how much we support this, so I encourage everyone to either support this or make a contribution to the foundation.
I've attended every one. It's a really fun party.
Yeah.
And the food's really good, and there's a lot of incredibly interesting people, so there's always good conversations. And there's libations, so the conversations kind of happen.
Can't beat the bartender.
What was that?
Can't beat the bartender.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. You're partial.
Okay. The MC annual assessments.
So as you know, we've been slowly working at kind of getting the way we treat management confidential staff in line with our policy. So every time there's an anniversary, I will be doing an assessment of that member of the staff and sharing with you, the board, whether or not they passed their assessment. This past month was Susan Rebecca Lubin and Marjorie Reinhardt. They both passed their annual assessment. I am suggesting a 3.5% raise for both. This would bring their pay closer to what their peers make in the area and help us keep staff in a highly competitive employee retention environment. It would also compensate for additional duties both employees have and will be taking.
So I have I'll take a motion for maybe approving the assessment and the 3.5% increase. Let's make the motion and we can discuss.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Andy.
Oh, listen.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion.
Remind me what the negotiated step was with the contract?
So we're trying to decouple from the contract.
Yeah.
However, the step would be 1%, and also management confidential staff did not receive their step last year. So this is actually in line with those two steps and a 1.5% increase. You have to also take into consideration that the sliding scale for health insurance has a major impact on all management confidential staff. So if they were union staff, this would actually catch them up to last year's step, this year's step, and then the raise they would receive.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Mary Cullinan agreement.
So the board reviewed and looked at an agreement. There were not many edits to it. We added some language from the, I don't want to misphrase,
The MC compensation policy.
the MC compensation policy, just some wording from that was added to it. Mary's signed the agreement, I've signed the agreement. This would allow Mary to retire a few months early and still get her health benefits. she would, for those months that she is retiring early, be paying about double what she normally would, and then that would fall back to being in line on her anniversary date.
So I'll take a motion to approve the agreement.
Make a motion?
Thanks, Alyssa. Any seconds? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Alright, motion carries. And remind us, Mary, when is your last day?
December 7th.
December 7th, okay. Okay. Decommissioned printers.
So I'm handing around a memo just so that it's kind of a clarification of what we're doing. This is in line with what we have done in the past, but we haven't really done it in such a really following policy guidelines. So the following printers have been decommissioned. I'm not going to go through the list. What happens when technology like this is decommissioned is we typically give it to Upper Hudson, and then Upper Hudson distributes it among smaller libraries that don't have as robust of a budget as we do. And then sometimes we identify nonprofits in the community that are looking for some IT updates.
Is this an information item or an action item?
Action item.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the decommissioning of these printers. Okay,
Motion.
thanks, Alyssa. Second, Andy. Any discussion?
A quick question, I'm sure I know the answer to already. What is the relative dollar value of these printers, like $6?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if we were to try to resell them, we would not.
Yeah.
It would not be worth the amount of time and energy that we spent
No
putting
doubt.
them on eBay.
One of the things that they're running into, there's a toner issue with one of them, that the toners are not being mass produced anymore, so like it's pretty much using up the stockpile that people have already. Toners.
That's what it does.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Moving right along. New facility department vehicle. Thank you.
So, one of the vans in our facilities fleet had a catastrophic failure of its fuel pump. Tried to word that less movie-esque, but that was really the best way to put it. We believe, and usually with a vehicle, this is a flag that if your fuel pump goes, you're in trouble for years to come. So we believe it's reached an age where there will be additional mechanical failures. This year, we have budgeted for one vehicle replacement. However, the board approved a vehicle purchase in 2017, but that vehicle was not obtained until 2018, so it was recorded as a 2018 response. So you all agreed to buy a vehicle in 2017, however,
It never happened.
it happened, it's just we
Late.
couldn't pay for it until we received it in 2018.
Understood.
So technically, we would be buying two vehicles in 2018. We are seeking board approval to purchase another vehicle this year, which would replace the van. The vendor would be DePaulo or Denoyer Chevrolet, which both were awarded a state contract, so it would fall in line with our policy. The cost would be no more than $37,500. This purchase would include trading a vehicle into the dealer, probably the one with the fuel pump.
Any questions? We can put a motion on the board on the table
So,
first.
this is an additional budget item, so, are we looking at our capital fund, or are we we're looking at operations, maintenance and repair? Okay, and we've got the additional income of,
Lower salaries.
Well, not lower salaries. We have positions that took some time to fill, which created savings. We also are predicting a significant savings in the retirement system payment. So I am not nervous. I am more nervous about the board's charge of making sure the budget was spent than I am us going significantly over budget.
Is that why this is coming from operations instead of the capital fund?
Yes.
Who will be handling the purchase? Will it be Dan?
It's usually Dan and Michael, since
Okay.
they're that's kind of their fleet. Their guys drive it the most, so I think Michael has actually been handling it because Dan has been busy with other things.
And the model year of the current van is 2011?
And it's low mileage, but we all know city miles can sometimes be 3 times worse on a vehicle than
And is there any expectation about what the trading value might be?
new.
Okay.
We figured we'd give the highest possible range, but we'll be working for something much lower than that.
And do you have any idea what this fuel pump cost to replace?
I think it was.
Sorry to put you on the spot. It's a hard question.
I think we have it.
Well, we replaced it because we need the vehicle.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah, but I
of
think
course
it's
you
on
do.
the check register.
Yeah, I want to say 1,600, but I might be
Yeah,
high.
1565.
Okay.
So it was an expensive fix. Okay.
Fuel pumps are not cheap.
So,
So what's the we've repaired it, so what's the issue with letting this thing go until it dies?
That it's going to break down or have a catastrophic failure when we're trying to get to a branch in the middle of the night to close up for a program or a after-hours meeting. That we need reliable vehicles, especially with the winter coming.
And there were more seats too.
Dan is also looking at a version of the van which will allow him to transport his facility staff when they decide they're going to bring 5 of the guys and ladies down to do the floors at Howe, or for even going to Trina's.
There are multiple add-ons that go on them. It's not just a basic cargo van. Dan usually has like a list of stuff he wants added, and that's, you know, the price looks rather extravagant, but that's the reason, is the additional equipment that's,
Ladder.
which we have a lot of experience in needing.
Yes.
and you're confident that this will be within the budget that we, overall?
This will, without a doubt, be in the budget.
Can I have a motion to approve the purchase of the vehicle? We can talk about it more after we have the motion on the table.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Wendy and Allison.
The model year of the other van, it was kind of very close to the same time.
They were
Was
both
it?
the same time.
They're both the same year.
Yep.
So we should
We
get
well,
ready.
and this is why we've scheduled one a year.
Okay,
So we'll be doing the same thing next year.
okay. And the mileage is approximately
It's
less
around
than 50?
No, I think it's over 50.
Over 50, okay. Thank you, I'm sorry to pepper you with so many
No,
questions.
it's okay.
Questions are good. Any other questions, concerns? Discussion? Yes.
I just came out of the facilities committee, so I'm not keen on what usually goes through that committee. But I certainly haven't had a chance to really get ahead for. Certainly haven't met with Dan. I don't know. I wouldn't object if we wanted to send this to the facilities committee for a review and a report out by the next board meeting.
And can you
I
just,
wouldn't object otherwise.
can you describe your concerns that you think needs to be addressed at this facilities meeting?
Sure, I just want to get a sense of what the general facilities management plan is and how these vehicles fit into it.
Perhaps that could be in charge of the facilities committee, but we could also let them have their van.
Sure, I guess then I have a facilities committee, but that's fine too. I mean, I'm not trying to, be an obstructionist I just think as long as I'm on the committee, I would prefer if the committee, fulfilled its charge. But I understand if there's extenuating circumstances.
So I spoke with the chair, but I don't know if you realized you were the chair at the time. So that might be where some of this confusion is. And that was the only agenda piece. So that's why we didn't have the meeting, because it was, do we really want to meet just to talk about a vehicle replacement? And then I asked, and not knowing that the chair didn't know she was the chair, hey, can we do this in the full board meeting? I would much rather have discussed this at a facilities committee meeting, but because we were at such a flux in new committee membership, I kind of feel that needs to be addressed sooner than later.
All right, well, maybe, could you just, review with us what our fleet is right now?
Excellent question, I was just gonna ask.
So we have 2 work trucks, and we have 3, Mary does the insurance, 3,
Two vans.
2 vans. So 2 vans, 2 work trucks.
Yep.
And so the work trucks are pickup trucks?
Yes, one we purchased at the beginning of this year, one we purchased,
2016?
yes.
Yeah, and that's the one that we use for snow removal.
Right.
We use both the
The
trucks
newest
for snow
yeah.
removal.
And then 2 vans, and
Two
those are
vans.
the 2011?
The vans we got from
They're both 2011.
they're 2011. They're basically basic vans too.
I thought we had more than that, so that makes me think. We should do.
I can mention too, like we mentioned this alternate seating or the additional seating in a van too. We also have several cases when we do outreach that we need to get everybody, people there as well. So it's not just the facilities. It's getting, a lot of times we're having difficulty finding some place for Bleecker to sit in a vehicle.
Do the pickup trucks have like crew cabs so you can drag more than?
Yes, so that was one thing that Dan was very smart in doing.
Right,
Is just saying, we have crew cabs so we can fit additional staff in them.
yeah.
But those, that's Michael and Williams, that's the vehicles they use. And that's more going around doing repairs, doing snow removal, doing some basic landscaping. And the reason why they're pickups is so that we can fit the snow blowers in the back and the mowers when we do the mowing. So the vans are really used for the cleaning staff who go around from branch to branch and do cleaning.
Are vehicles part of the facilities 5-year plan?
They will
No,
be.
they will be now. Since it falls within that budget, that makes the most amount of sense.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that was everybody, right? I think so, yeah. Right. Summer reading program presentation. So, let's see. We can do it in 15 minutes?
It's
How
at
many
least
minutes? I
15.
only have one sheet of paper, so okay.
15.
And it isn't even a presentation because we don't have any way to present here. We just have,
It's an oral presentation.
it's an oral presentation. So they're split up enough.
Lisa can handle it like
I just
story
kept
time.
mine so I could see what I had to say about stuff. Good evening! As many of you know, last year's summer reading program was a summer of change from our past year.
I'm sorry, could you just introduce yourself
Oh,
to
hey.
us, please?
I'm
Thank
Lisa
you.
Newman. I'm the head of youth services at the Washington Avenue branch. I'm the summer reading czar, pretty much. I make all the summer reading decisions with the committee, but then I get to be like, you're doing it wrong. Please do it right. Have your people do it right. Let's see. Summer of Change, that was last year. Bingo cards. All right, so this year, we built on last year's improvements, gracefully increasing our signups, raising our participation percentage, and offering an early literacy level that we had not had in quite a few years. All right, so I think that was from last year's presentation. I copied and pasted it, and then I looked, down below. Last year's numbers tell a story of kids who are reading. This year, we well exceeded our sign-up goal of 1,200 youth. So last year, I don't even think we had a goal last year, but we had 867 kids last year. Our goal this year was 1,200, and we had 1,499. The 1,665 includes the early literacy people. It's a rough estimate because we had a meeting earlier today where I found out there were 20 duplicate kids. So when you have 1,600 of anything, there's bound to be a margin of error. There you go. Okay. 1,040 kids, 459 teens. For the school age SRP, that was a 72% increase over last year. Our overall participation rate was a bit shy of our 50% goal at 46%. We designed our own reading records in-house to reflect our 10-hour goal. This year we had 440 youth reached the 10-hour goal compared to last year's 191. That is a 130% increase. So happy to say that. We also added a clear challenge goal of 40 more hours for a total of 50 hours. 122 youth completed this goal and earned the coveted I Read Past My Bedtime t-shirt that I hear adults want to buy, and everybody loved the shirt. That's the middle picture. Those are just 5 of the kids who got the shirt. This year's SRP committee sought donations from local businesses, Stewart's, Chipotle, Taco Bell, and NoHo Pizza to name the biggest donors. We were able to offer more experience prizes than last year. Another generous donation from the Friends enabled us to once again offer our high-quality APL branded prizes. This year we had yo-yos, water bottles, and sunglasses. And when we ran out of things, we used the backpacks from last year and the piggy banks. What was new? That's down below. North Albany had a very successful collaboration with the school district summer school educators. Over the course of the summer, they saw more than 430 kids at 62 sessions. They also hosted programs that were open to the public in the school gym, where 885 people saw a Pinocchio performance. I know, right? I was very surprised. Pine Hills hosted the city's Breveter Street Station number 10 fire engine. Over 100 people came to the branch to meet firefighters, see equipment, and hear stories. As Scott mentioned, Washington Avenue hosted the first Drag Queen Story Hour, where over 200 people were entertained with stories, songs, cool craft, and a dance party. Another fun event that was added this year was Ice Cream with the Mayor. 3 kids from each branch who completed at least 10 hours were invited to have ice cream at City Hall. The second page is just some fun facts. The top left-hand chart is a historical review of the years, how many kids total were registered, and as you can tell, we've gone from counting books to minutes to books to minutes to books to books and minutes. And this year, in the 12 years that I have recorded, we signed up the most kids and read, hot diggity, the most minutes ever, 631,560.
Lisa, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And, aside from the obvious answer that you're fantastic at your job,
Thanks.
what would you attribute the massive jump in participation to? Like, what was done right this year, or righter?
Setting a clear goal for the 50 hours. Last year, we were just like, read 5 more hours to get a hat. If you want to read more, We didn't really have a clear challenge goal. We're talking about calling it a challenge maybe, because that's what it is. It's like a challenge. Challenge you to read this amount of time. Here's some kind of lovely incentives. So, and also outreach and Pine Hills. I don't know. Pine Hills and North Albany, they really kicked it. Like Pine Hills had the Rise Kids. They had the most signups. I didn't have enough room for everybody's signups, but Pine Hills, their goal was in the 250 range, and they had 360. And of, you know, all the kids that sign up, we're almost at half bringing back sheets and recording any amount of reading. But we're also increasing the amount of kids who return more than once to tell us that they have read more. The second chart here, this is Arbor Hills teen signups. They had 58 kids teen sign up, so that's 6th grade and up. Of the 58 kids, 20 of them read. All 20 of them read for 10 hours. When I was sorting the sheet, I was like, that can't be right, because every other sheet, like, it tapers off, especially for the teens. So, I don't know what Arbor Hill did, but every kid who was reading over there, who was in 6th grade and up, read the whole thing. And they had 7 kids who got to 50 hours. 4 of them were teenagers. So I think it's talking to kids and talking it up.
We also, through the Albany Promise, created new avenues of communication with students, using the school district to do SNN announcements about summer reading, and also the Albany Housing Authority. I feel like that got a lot of traction. It got us on a lot of people's radars.
Also email. This year I sent emails, like the second weekend I was like, oh, we haven't seen you. What's going on? Oh, yeah, like every 2 weeks I was emailing kids who either hadn't checked in or only checked in once, and I'm like, oh, hey, come back. And that was probably part of it too.
I walked my classes over to Pine Hills and told them they needed to sign up.
So school outreach.
Right. School outreach. We got in all of the schools this year. We were invited, even in the middle of the summer, to talk to charter schools, to kids who were in the summer programs there. So yeah.
Did the chalk bombing in schools. We
Yes.
had the leaker at drop off.
Yep, at drop off last week of school.
How many years have you been involved in summer reading? I mean, coordinating it.
2, I guess. And then back a few years ago, I was on the committee when I was at Washington Avenue before, but I wasn't the head of the committee.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
This is
That's great news.
Questions and comments from this side of the table?
This is amazing.
Thanks. I don't think about it much, but I was like, when I look at the thing from Arbor Hill, I was like, wow, that was pretty cool.
So, I was in the library yesterday when you were working on this.
Yes.
And I got to hear how excited you were about all the signups.
It
was awesome.
Like while you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh, you know, the data, data, make sure you're putting in the birthdays, doing this, doing that. But then when you're sorting it and you're looking at it, it's like, oh, that's
The
cool.
results, yeah.
Yes, and I was counting up how many kids had done 10 hours the year before versus this year, and that was kind of exciting.
It is. And were there goals? Did you have goals per branch in the past, or is that a new thing?
No, that was new too, like
Okay.
sign up goals. Yeah, that was the whole 12, we wanted to get to 1,200, and we did a 20% increase for everybody, I think. So, yeah.
So are we going to hear the results from
The kids in the school have to take the tests before
right?
we can.
So that'll be really interesting to see if there's
Yeah,
a
this year-
correlation.
We increased the sample size
Yeah.
by a significant amount
So
too.
they're excited to see what the outcome's gonna be.
Yeah, very exciting. Wouldn't that be great if bump that number, you know?
As a correlation.
I think your personal outreach to people is probably what makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, we were signing people up we did the movie nights this year.
Mhm.
We were signing up and pre-registering people too.
It was a thing this summer.
Right.
It was a thing.
It was a thing this summer.
And do you think it was a thing because you made it your thing, or was the stuff from state ed helpful or not?
Shouldn't be, I forgot the camera's on.
I think we had more staff buy-in.
Yeah, because you made it your own?
Yeah.
Yes.
The staff from, it wasn't just the librarians who bought into it, some of the branches, the back.
I was waiting for Matthew and Sarah to finish writing. Take your time. We could have rolled through a couple more things that aren't gonna take any time. So, if you're done, public comment, seeing no members of the public present, we'll skip that. Executive session, I'm not aware of a need for that. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Jenna, thank you. And Alyssa, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Alright, thanks everybody. We'll see you at How next month.